Hello, dear YouTube watchers. Oh my goodness, it's getting exciting. At the point of filming this, I have completed part 2 of the mastery program. I actually think I'm still right on time to finish a program within 1 year, which also means finding my style during the first half of the program, because now I'm going to be moving into portfolio section where I'm supposed to produce a coherent body of work, at least 25 paintings. And I must say, like, what happened in the past 3 weeks of the program, oh my goodness, my artwork is all over the place stylistically. Still some paintings that I would prefer not to even show. I'm still calling all these things studies. I'm still searching what rocks my boat and what kind of art I want to make. And I actually think I'm getting very close to understanding it. So again, I want to give you a few tips, but this time also a little bit of my backstory and some of my findings. So I'm just hoping to inspire you to really dive in, search deeply, be vulnerable. You will see I'm going to be very vulnerable today. I think that's part of being an artist, to want to do this internal work. So this time I'm also going to have a bit of criticism toward the program. That does not mean that I do not like the program anymore. I love the program and it's doing exactly what I came here for. So the criticism that I have is just how I see things versus what the Milans teach, and you take it or leave it. My first tip actually is read the suggested reading materials. This book is amazing. It has so many gems in it. Don't wait until you know who you are to get started, because getting started is the first essential step. I think I was almost hoping to find it intellectually and then paint. That's not how you find it. You find yourself by doing it. And just after filming the last video, in the last video I said, for inspiration, go out into the real world. Don't just dive into Pinterest and Google. And he says that too. Step away from the screen. We don't know where we get our ideas from. What we do know is that we do not get them from our laptops. Oh my goodness, couldn't agree more. And there is one more thing that I found relevant. Ellie says you don't necessarily have to like your own art. She says, art that you would hang up in your home does not necessarily have to be the same as the art that you make or the art that you want to emulate. And I remember when I read it, I was a little, I don't want to make art that I don't like. And he says, write the book that you want to read. For me, find it inspiring to think, let me paint the art that I would like to see on my own walls or whatever walls, really. I see a lot of art I don't like, and I'm sure you do too. And then sometimes I'm like, what kind of art would I like to see there instead? And is that something that I could make? How would I make it? Let's go into the assignment weeks. I had never used gold leaf before, except for I have gold paint, which is actually already my first tip experience with different kinds of gold, if you like gold in general. There is gold paint, gold spray paint. I have a gold drip pen, which is really awesome. And of course, then there's the gold leaf, and they all create different kinds of gold. Some is more matte, some is more shiny, some is more textured. I also like to combine them. So that's really interesting. And I'm like hiding one painting because there's the yuck and the yum. This is my yuck here, not liking it. I know that some people do. I had a fairly concise idea of what I wanted it to look like. I did actually do some planning. I had a board where I put ideas on that I wanted to combine, and it just didn't happen. Completely not the style that I wanted to emulate, and so my conclusion is that that is apparently not my style. So yay for finding that. The week started horrible because I was on YouTube and saw somebody use an emergency blanket, and it's to keep people from freezing. It's a foil thing, and she uses that foil as the underpainting. So she glues the foil on her canvas, paints on top of that. It did not work at all. I did use a canvas to glue that stuff on. I actually also glued some of it on this painting. Long story short, I had to tear it all down because it didn't stick. Then the paint didn't stick on the foil. It looked horrific, cheap, awful. It had wrinkles, and it just looked like nothing I would ever be able to sell. When I then looked at the video again and looked really closely also at the photos in the book that she has of this specific painting, hers also wrinkled, and I am pretty sure she would not be able to sell it because it just doesn't look high class, it doesn't look quality, it doesn't look like anything that would last. But I might be wrong, okay? My tip here is, don't believe anything you see on YouTube. My vow to you is I will not sell stuff that looks good on video or in a photograph if it does not work in real life, okay? I promise with everything I have, I will not do that. What's the point? I was pretty far with this painting, and I tore it all off and had to repaint some of it. And I actually do have a time lapse of this. This I would hang up. I like it. Some people see it as very dark and moody, and some people see it as very peaceful. I see it as peaceful. I liked the process. I had a sketch, that's all I had. I had a pencil sketch of it. There is no realism in it, obviously, and I just went with it and enjoyed the process. This could not be part of my portfolio yet because I don't find it's refined enough, but it could be almost like my source for something I do for my portfolio. Another tip, read the instructions on your gold foil glues. It was my first time working with it, and what Ellie teaches is different than what it says on my instructions. Okay, so again, there's a bit of yuck and yum, even though this yuck to me is not as big a yuck as other yucks. This is my yum. Now, these last 2 weeks of part 2, they are not giving you new materials to try, but it's all about you finding your process. Like, how do you like to work? And which materials are your favorite materials? It's also about creating sources. The super big question, what am I going to paint? But I've gotten so much closer to figuring this one out. The problem for me is that I cannot solve this thinking, I am going to paint a series about blah, 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 and such and such and such and such, because that is left brain land, and painting is all about right brain, where I want to be. I don't have words. I'm all about feeling. So the less I have in mind, the better. Like, not think about making sellable art, not think about what I want to say. Hear me out. I find it extremely important that you know what you're trying to say. Maybe you say it without knowing what it is. So that's how it starts for me. And while I'm painting or drawing, I start to understand what it is that's driving me. While I was painting it, I was starting to understand what I'm painting. So again, this could spin me into a series of paintings because now I understand what it was that I was trying to express. So for me, it seems that my paintings are my sources, but I can't make the source first somehow. Making sources is easier said than done for me because I do not want to do realism. I would like to say that if you want to do realism or the abstract realism that is dominant in the Milan art community, still I find it important that you do it your way and that you have a voice and that you have something to say. And I'm sure, Ellie teaches that, but it's all about finding your voice. But then they show you how they create sources, and what they do is not only not a word about going out in the real world, but just putting things together. I'm gonna take this as a background and Oh, I think I'm gonna put some birds in there. Oh, I think that looks pretty. Let's see, maybe I can paste some generic woman's face in there. Oh yeah, that looks good. Now, I still don't know whether Milan art is in the end all about creating art for the decorative market. I'm not judging if that's what you want to do. But if you want to be an artist and if you want to find your voice as an artist, it's not enough to put stuff together that just looks good, that looks pretty. I'm not even sure art is about being pretty, and that's why there is absolutely no way that I would be able to create 20 sources in 2 hours. She claims some people can. Also, tip, start to learn what looks good on the iPad and what looks good on the canvas or the paper, because it's not the same thing. Pay attention to that. Yeah, and there was one more thing. She keeps saying paint generic faces. You don't want to hang a stranger's painting on your walls unless you can sort of identify with it or put yourself into their place. And I'm so bored with generic faces, with pretty young female faces. I am much more interested in interesting faces. Here is my backstory. I am in my first profession as singer and actress, and portraying anything generic is the opposite of what I would ever want to do on a stage. That is so boring. Same for painting. I can't produce anything generic. No, make it specific. Make it interesting. Make people make double takes because it's different than what you see on Instagram and photoshopped advertisement. Very personal, okay? I'm not meant against the Milan art program as a whole. This is just one issue that I really differ from. So there you go, take it or leave it. One more thing. She shows you how to make photographs of people, how to put the lighting and stuff. And then she gets into how to get people to make interesting poses. Basically, you don't want to point like that, but you want to really exaggerate, you know, and really, you really want to exaggerate things for paintings. Oh, can you tell? Whew. I get goosebumps. I disagree so strongly. I hate anything fake. Dreamy. I don't want it on my walls. Make up your own mind. I am not sure I'm going to keep all of that in there. But I think I need to learn to be opinionated as an artist too. I have an opinion. So this is where making my art is going to differ greatly from being an actress, because I have always told other people's stories. And I have kind of always hidden behind other stories that I told on stage. Now telling my own story is scary. So it's also scary for me to tell you how much fun I had painting this. And that was a big aha, like that's how it should be. And while I was painting it, and now also while I'm showing it, being a little bit embarrassed about it, because it's goofy, it's weird, and it's not real art, and blah, 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 all of that. But I'm starting to understand that I need to embrace that. Otherwise, I will keep making art that I don't like to make, and that is your fastest way to burn out and to not ever want to make art again. I might actually do maybe a little series with that idea. Yes, it's dark. Yes, it's gloomy. Yes, some of the faces are ugly, but that's who I am, and I'm gonna have to embrace it and own it and fly with it. As you can see, this is pretty specific in color story. What I have learned so far, I'm very gladly sharing. So one tip is think about the color concept. Only put the colors you intend to use out and really second guess if you want to reach for more. If you put all the rainbow colors in one painting, it's usually not that great. Like I did on that one. There is one more thing to say about color concepts. Not only do you want to think about, for example, I'm going to make a painting with mainly red, purple, and orange. But you want to think about the ratio of these colors. Is it going to be, for example, mainly red and purple, and orange is the so-called accent color? Because that's what's going to make that orange really interesting. Versus if you have the same amounts of red, purple, and orange. So think about main colors. Add maybe 2 neutrals in there, and then 1 or 2 accent colors. That really helped me get more specific in my color stories. Composition-wise, this is completely wrong, okay? Because I have a line straight through the middle on both axes. Which is absolutely not what you want to do. The focal point, I guess you could say, are kind of where they need to be. Color story is weird. I just had to do it. I think most artists who became great did so because they challenged the rules that somebody came up with. I'm good with sometimes going against what everybody else says. It wasn't even entirely on purpose, but I don't think the composition is the issue with this painting, actually. I had fun painting it, mostly. The assignment is only for 2, but I did 3 anyway, because I wanted to try 2 more things technically. They were both abstracts, and so I wanted to make one that's not abstract. I find neither one of them really successful, but learned a lot. So I wanted to try collage with fabric, which is this one. It has fabric on it. I do want to make art with textiles, and it didn't work in this case, but I would have to go back and try again. If you find that you generally liked it, but you weren't able to achieve it, what would probably happen would be you'll try it again, and you try it again, and that's how most artists really work. You become obsessed with something, a concept, a material, and you really kneel yourself in, and that's where the mastery program maybe doesn't really support you, because it keeps you moving on, because they need to put it all in 1 year, right? You try all these things, then when you found your things, that's when the real work actually starts. So allow yourself the time to kneel in and get obsessed with something and to keep trying. Maybe it's not during the mastery program, but maybe afterwards. With this painting, this is also a material I wanted to use. It's called Power Text, but really it's just about working with structure, almost like a modeling paste that I put on the canvas. Geez, still wet. There's even some eggshells and some sand, but I think it doesn't work in combination with the art style that I then put on top. My tip would be try one thing at a time. Just let the material talk. I learned so much from this. I don't like the outcome. I like elements of it. Same with that one. What I learned in my case is doing 1 layer of acrylics and 2 layers of oils with ample time between the oil layers so that I do not have to do all the oil wet on wet. I like to be able to put in highlights and extreme darks at the very end without having to put it on wet paint. That is also going to be something that I wouldn't be able to do within the week structure, because that means I will be working on one painting over the course of maybe 2 weeks. So that was a very important finding for me, because I always ended up doing something with acrylics and not achieving the effect, and then with oils it was so easy. Both of them were actually, I would almost call it like the search for beauty, mostly in colors, like combining different colors next to each other. Everything in nature is gorgeous, in my opinion. And nature only produces beauty, and for me, it's so hard to produce anything of any kind of beauty. I'm like struggling with the simplest things, and it's like, yeah. Just experimenting. Also with how much do I plan and sketch, and how much do I let happen in the moment while I'm painting. Mainly because I need to be able to be in flow when I paint, and if I copy one-to-one what I see on a screen to my canvas, I'm not enjoying that. And this stream of consciousness thing is so important for me as an artist. This is the last one I made. It came from a specific idea and it turned into something else, and my cat Queenie died, which was a very traumatic experience. She died in my arms, which was beautiful and horrific at the same time. And I just wanted to I enjoyed spending a few more hours with her. I like the eye. I like some of the flowers, how I was able to just kind of do it loosely, I guess is the word. It's one of these things. I just had to do it and try it and figure that this is not the way I enjoy painting. But like I said, I enjoyed the time with her somehow, and it was just one of those things. What's left to say? These are my favorite paintings from my part 2, which gives me a lot of input. So it's about what I had most fun with doing, what feels most me. And I must say, I feel I have come completely full circle. Obviously, we are going towards surrealism, which makes a lot of sense, because I remember when I first discovered surrealism as a kid, I was immediately so blown away. I've always loved cartoony stuff as well. I like stuff that has philosophical meaning, like as goofy as this thing might look. Obviously, there's a deeper meaning in it. I definitely love painting humans, or let's just say living beings. I like paintings with a story. I like paintings that make you wonder. The somewhat sad truth is this. When I came to the mastery program, what sparked my interest was the thing about finding your voice. And I think I was hoping to find it through an outside source that would tell me what my voice was. And also how to produce sellable art. Because everything I always make comes out weird. This is a big issue for me. So I'm going to show you something. I made this very shortly before I started the Milan art program. It's on a very old fabric, this flowery fabric that you can still see through. I abandoned the project. Of course, it's gloomy, it's weird, it's not something people want to hang on their walls. And I think secretly or unknowingly, I was hoping through the mastery program to find somebody other than me. And that makes me sad. You know, why have I been denying myself so much? And with everything I had, tried not to be me, because I always felt that being me is not acceptable. I have not even posted some of these paintings now in the community because I feel that I'm not conform with what is liked in the community. Even before giving others a chance to understand me, I'm like, nobody's gonna understand me. And that's kind of sad, and it's besides the point of being an artist. Artists need to say things that nobody else dares to say. They need to show the courage to be themselves in order for other people to be inspired by them. Oh, there's a great quote I want to share with you. Art is there to comfort the disturbed and to disturb the comfortable. I think that's so deep. So that is so true for how I feel about my art. I have a bit of an underdog quality. I would give you the tip, find some art quotes that speak the truth to you and that inspire you, that encourage you to be you. There are lots of good art quotes out there, and put them on your wall and read it every morning. But again, I'm not sure if Milan art wants you to produce decorative art in the end because that's sellable. Maybe it can be both. Maybe it can be interesting and challenging and uncomfortable and still be sellable. Who knows? Oh, by the way, I did sell this painting. And somebody walked by the other day who she keeps seeing me paint, and she ordered a portrait of her and her dog. Isn't that cool? So I think I was onto something when I painted this, but I was in denial. So now saying I'm actually going to go back to this. Also painting on fabrics like that, I love that, instead of just a smooth canvas. Doesn't mean that I could just as well not have done the mastery program or the first half of it, because when I was here, I was not comfortable with being here. And now through the mastery program, I found my voice, I guess. I found more comfort with being who I am. Yeah, so I guess I wanted to be more mainstream, but it actually turns out that no, actually I don't. So to encourage you, I just also want to point out that there are plenty of people who do not end up doing abstract realism. I want to mention Julie Selina. I don't know how she pronounces her name because she's Danish. I asked her if I might mention her. She has such a great style. I think it's beautiful. It's very recognizable. You see something and you immediately know she made it. Check her out if you feel inspired by that. Then there's also Freddy Getch. It's so recognizable. His style is so fun. I also think highly sellable. Has nothing to do with abstract realism. He told me that he tried at some point and it just wasn't his. And he kind of went back to his own style. If you don't like any of that, that's totally fine. But I just want to encourage you to search some people, to find artists whose styles are very distinct, very recognizable, just to be inspired, to find your own thing. A tip to elevate your taste would be a YouTube channel that I like very much, Art21. You see artists paint, and especially you hear them talk about their work. These people are obsessed, every single one of them. And they're very recognized artists. And it's not about beauty, actually, not at all. Also that just to encourage you, if you're not mainstream, fine, you probably have better chances to be recognized as a real artist versus just a decorative artist if you are not mainstream. Because that really means you found your voice and you found something to say that not everybody else is saying. Very important, I found that I do not thrive on a schedule. So the whole thing of I gotta put out 2 pieces per week, it causes stress in my painting sessions. And when I'm stressed, I have a harder time getting into flow. If I feel like, I got 2 hours, gotta finish this. I do much better when not on a schedule. So find out what kills your joy and what brings you flow. And so I'm gonna have to be very careful going into portfolio that I really just let myself have fun. Get a bit off the time schedule. I'm gonna be gone for 2 weeks on a theater job, and then I'm gonna probably do 3 weeks of vacation, during which I might paint a little bit, but I'm not gonna be continuing officially with the program because that's gonna cause so much stress. And out of stress come no good paintings. Keep having fun. Find your joy. Find what rocks your boat. Find your voice. Be fearless about expressing yourself. Be fearless about being you with a vengeance, because that's what we want to see. So I hope to encourage you, and I would be thrilled to hear from you. As always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for subscribing. And I promise never to put crap on my channel. That's not true. I am an actress in professional life, but it's so important to me to be authentic in my personal life. So this is me. You take care and do a lot of great painting. Bye.